Give us any chance, we'll take it. Read us any rule, we'll break it. We're gonna make our dreams come true.
Welcome to Navtastic, a podcast about 8 seasons in a row. I'm Mr. Fernandes, and
I am Chris Jayawardena.
And we're about to review Date with Eraserhead, which is an episode from Season 4 of Laverne and Shirley. It's directed by Ray Duvall Jr. and written by Judy Pioli. Which is some facts about them, don't you, Chris?
In the case of Ray Duvall Jr., I feel like I've kind of tapped out. I'll double check next time he comes around. I think he's got 1 or 2 more episodes left, but he was mostly a technical director on a lot of sitcoms. He's done multiple episodes in the past, including a couple we've enjoyed. I think he's got a couple more. As I did mention, though, in the last time he came around, this is one of the only shows that he directed, and it's the only show he directed this many episodes for, which is interesting distinction. And I wonder if it was him trying out directing and seeing what he thought of it, or if it was a case of just, it was the only one that he really liked working with that crew and cast that he wanted to actually direct them. I don't know what the case is. In the case of Judy Pioli, this is her 4th of 14 episodes with 10 more to go for the series. So apparently she also worked on the Sinbad show as a story consultant in the 1990s, meaning she may have gotten the gig via Mark Sotkin, who directed the previous episode, given that they worked on one of the same episodes of Sinbad. She also is responsible for the upcoming Lenny's Crush and was responsible for Debutante Ball, so that kind of makes this one a bit of a surprise.
Yeah, that one, Lenny's Crush is so good. We are in for a treat. That's coming up. This episode, here's what it's about. It's the Pizza Bowl's 10th anniversary, and everyone's trying to straighten up and fly right so they can score a date with a private soiree Frank is throwing after hours to celebrate. Laverne assumes that Shirley will attend with Carmine, but when she hears 2 girls gossiping together about the hot date one of them had with the big ragu, Laverne goes ballistic and drags Shirley into his apartment to confront the seemingly two-timing boxer. Laverne soon learns that the twosome have agreed to loosely date other people, an agreement that they were fine with until Laverne forced their hands. Unfortunately, Carmine and Shirley argue over Carmine's taste in women, and Shirley announces they aren't going together anymore, forcing Laverne to use her handsome new beau to find an equally handsome date for Shirley, a prospect that quickly goes awry. Meanwhile, Lenny's attempt at turning himself into a millionaire with muscles in time for the party results in him third-wheeling Squiggy's date with a girl from out of town with surprising results. I know what you thought of this episode, but tell our viewers.
Carmine can get fucked. So we're basically led to understand we are supposed to buy into the idea that they've had this understanding for the past 2 years, because that's what they mentioned. Which then, by the way, gets the timeline all nice and screwed up, as we've mentioned before, because then it further implies that they've been, because they got back together in season, kind of around the end of season 2, really.
Yeah.
And that in doing so, that meant that time has moved forward rather along with the show's seasons. But anyway, 2 years. They had an understanding, and yet Carmine has been continually jealous to the point that in the festival, he causes such a scene as to disqualify the DeFazio team's chance of a victory, which ends up causing all this chaos for Frank and Laverne and ruins things for a bunch of people. Not to mention, he really mucks up Shirley's trip, where it's a case of if they had an understanding, he doesn't have any say in her seeing other guys on the trip.
Yeah.
And not only this, as we've discussed, this is a guy who has banged every divorcee up and down Knapp Street. This is a guy who has basically, to put it vulgarly, as I think I mentioned at one point to you, is that it's like, this is practically like half the women in Milwaukee know this guy's cock ring size. For fuck's sake. And it's infuriating to me. And then, not only that, he's already sort of figured out that if he wants his libido with Shirley, Shirley's not into that. And is going to get, pushed away and pushed aside. And even though it almost kind of happens in the robbery, which would have been, as despite my arguing with my mother about this, I think it would have been healthy for things to have at least gone forward in that, because it's like, Shirley was, the Night at the Rocks, it kind of shows she's holding back, which maybe isn't healthy for her. Carmine should have figured this out. Should have had a discussion with her about this is what I need. She should have been, and if Shirley wants to stick to her guns and say no, not, as in not about waiting patiently, but that I don't want to do this before marriage.
Yeah.
They should have parted ways ages ago.
Yeah.
And moved on.
Yeah.
Yeah, I hated this.
I really hated this episode.
I hated it a lot for this. Yeah. Well, go on ahead. I have other stuff to complain about too, but go ahead.
I like this episode a lot more than you do, mostly because Shirley has actual agency in the relationship. Carmine gives her none in the festival. She has none when he literally dumps her, so he can be with the equal woman he loves back in season 1, even though that girl doesn't even last a whole episode after that.
Mm-hmm.
In this episode, Shirley at least has chosen this relationship with him. She has chosen her limits. She's chosen what she can do with her life and he can do with his life. Carmine has no right to do everything that he's done in previous episodes, because if this arrangement is real, as we said, he looks like a dick. But here, Shirley finds where her no line is. She stands by it, and she dumps his butt when he crosses it.
Mm-hmm. Good point.
And in that respect, I can tolerate it. In that respect, I can tolerate it and even enjoy it. I enjoy certain aspects of this episode. The Lenny and Squiggy subplot is really funny. Though the audience was really into the idea of a presumptive threesome there, weren't they?
Yeah, I noticed. I did notice that, which I have mixed feelings about that.
Yeah. But, well, Lenny obviously didn't get any. I mean, unless I guess he might have gotten something. I mean, swallow keys at some point. He would have gotten something.
I don't know, a sloppy kiss and maybe her chewing gum. I don't know.
Possibly. Then he inhaled the keys.
Right.
But
God, I'm still trying to figure out how that worked. But anyway, go ahead.
This is probably the biggest divergence we've had in opinion when it comes to an episode so far. But, to me, it's acceptable. I don't like any of the stuff with poor Warren. His biggest flaw, in quote unquote, is that he's just a nerd. Mm-hmm. And there's nothing wrong with that. Mm-hmm. He's a little nerdy. He's got weird taste in clothing. So what? Shirley's kissed Squiggy multiple times. She kisses him in this episode. Squiggy's worse than this dude. I know that he's not this big flashy guy that she can wave in Carmine's face and prove that she can attract any stud in Milwaukee, but he's not a bad dude. In fact, he is yet another person that Carmine bullied. We get to hear that Carmine was a high school bully in this episode, which is an interesting factor. Not surprising considering his behavior. But yeah.
Oh, certainly. Yeah, no, exactly. I mean, he is a fucking thug. He absolutely is. He is, and he's proven that through multiple different situations. And sometimes he uses his powers for good, like in something like It's the Water. But this is one of those cases of reminding that, this was, Carmine was a rough kid, and, and people can give me all this shit about, it was the environment, it was the time. Fuck off. Absolutely fuck off. It's, by today's standards, we're not in the fucking 1960s. Get over it.
Well, I wouldn't even say for a guy in the 60s. I mean, the boys are products of that era. And the boys don't do any of that stuff.
Exactly. Yeah, they don't bully people around. They don't push people around. They don't do that threat. Because that's the interesting thing. I have this note here. Let me scroll down here, because this is what I feel. Where are your standards? When Shirley goes on, it's fine with you, fine with me, all this, she has 1,000 guys that want to go out with me in this town, etc. And this is the point. This whole situation between them and their understanding has never been fair. No. Because Shirley is not dateable, because men know Carmine will beat them up because he is a bully. He has a reputation for this. Well,
she pulls several handsome, in quote unquote, traditionally handsome dudes in. She does date several traditionally handsome dudes throughout the span of the series. When California happens and he has less leverage in the relationship, he in fact often ends up mooning after her while she's off doing other things. Which is
good, because he fucked up. He needs to pay the price for it.
Yeah,
but a lot of what this.
Oh.
It comes off as, I'm not a fan of jealousy arcs, but there are ways I've seen it done that are fine, and it's about them figuring stuff out, and kind of testing each other. And I agree. And, to be honest, like, yeah, I mean, as much as I'm still stubborn that I really dislike this episode, I agree with your point about the agency factor, is very important. And truly, you're right. It is the first time I've seen it. I guess I was so overwhelmed by my outrage at Carmine and the personal stuff for myself that it even brought up as well. Yeah. But it's God. And I mean, even just like the line, about, her saying, it's like Muriel the blockhead block. And he goes, that's not a nice thing to say. And she says, you used to say that in high school. And then he responds, I didn't date her for her brains.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's like, yikes. Like I think that's the thing I can't get past is stuff like that. And then as you were pointing out, so there's two things regarding that the Warren thing is part of, but it also comes back to the way that Shirley is treated, is that if this was simply about this character being wronged and the comedy came more out of the, I don't even know, to be honest, how to even make this funny. I don't think the way they tried to make this funny worked for me. Yeah. All of the other ancillary humor around it works really well, like Laverne, listening in on the girls' conversation, the whole Lenny trying to work out is hysterical. But what they end up doing is creating this sense that as soon as Shirley is given that sense of agency, she has it plucked from her for the sake of a joke. And that she loses her opportunity. She wants a thing. She's going to be given the thing. And it's like, nope, we're not going to give it to you. And not only we're not going to give it to you, we're going to do that by reinforcing the narrative of the common society and the normal people. I have a note about this. It's a frustrating. I mean, okay. What is I'm weird. I'm a nerd. I'm a geek, and I get it. I have been picked on for most of my life, and I don't like normal people, quote unquote, because of it. And I hate the fucking socially acceptable fiends who have these unrealistic ideals of beauty that they put on the rest of the world because they're a bunch of insecure fuckheads. Like, I just cannot stand it. And I feel like what they do with Warren is that they basically say, here is the thing that you're supposed to laugh at and you're supposed to despise. Yeah. And the audience eats it up and they laugh at it and they go for it. And it just made me sick. We have no idea who this guy is. Yeah,
he hasn't yet to develop at all as a character.
And my mother, is even saying, take the hat off. He probably looks fine without the hat. And Laverne ends up even actually asking for that, And she later pointed out an interesting kind of what if he was the guy that he changed in high school. Because that's the idea. The whole joke is, he hasn't changed since high school. Well, look at these three that we're supposed to be looking at. Look at the whole main cast. They haven't changed in the last 5 goddamn years.
Yeah.
And so what if he's the guy? What if that's even more of the comedy, is that he is, in some respects, he's too good for her.
That would be funny.
Not that he's pretty, but that he's intellectual, that he's, he's got a good, he's either running his own business or he's, he actually is like a public, we had Jerry, the unpublished novelist who was a hack. What if it actually is a published novelist and he's very successful? Yeah. So it's like, there's all these, but that's the point though, is that they basically, it reinforces all this shit that I work so hard in my own personal life to not feel insecure about and to not feel ashamed of, because of basically like what this show did to me and to other people as I was growing up. And so it's anyway, that's my part of the rant. But it's like the more I think about it, the more angry I get, which is a bummer because, as much as, you have the expectation I'm going to give this a 1, I'm not. But we'll get to that.
I was actually expecting a 0. I was expecting a flat out 0 because I know which episode I'm giving a 0. I know which 3 or 4 episodes I'm giving a 0 to, which we'll get to. Like, this is a very typical sitcom plot of the era, sadly, where you would have, oh no, the dud, he's a nerd, oh no, a nerd, nerds are unattractive, you need to marry the football captain. And really, ultimately, her rejection of Warren is a dick-waving contest between her and Carmine.
Right.
This is basically the two of them going, look, I can get this hot person. Look, I get this hot person who's better than you. Look. And it's dumb. And it signifies the maturity of their relationship, really. Which is very not mature. They act like little kids, and not in a cute, charming way. Like, Lenny and Laverne, who don't even get together, blah, 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 have the kind of relationship where they act like little kids together in a happy way. Carmine and Shirley act like kids yanking each other's hair on a playground. And that's the level of maturity their relationship has. So, of course, she's going to use this situation to try to get leverage on Carmine, and he's going to try to, bring leggy blonde X into the restaurant and say, look what I can do. And then it turns out, in the end, well, it was pointless because they want to be with each other.
Right.
Which is it. Really, the way they wrote Carmine and Shirley's relationship was so helter-skelter. Because it makes no linear sense that the guy who, you said in your earlier rant, would get into a car, drive days to New York, and then climb up a greased pole to yell at his girlfriend because, oh no, she might be dating a handsome guy who is not him, if they have an arrangement, in quote unquote. So, I feel like that whole thing, the whole 2-year arrangement thing, is a way to explain away the notion of Shirley dating other dudes while dating Carmine regularly. It's like a retro, and it doesn't make sense because they have been intensifying their closeness ever since he dumped Lucille off screen, which never even got addressed.
Right. Yeah. Or the fact that he clearly was boffing women that he was giving dance lessons to.
Yeah,
See Rosa Greenbaum.
Yeah. Which never really got addressed and not been addressed. Which would have been a great storyline. But yeah, he's also doing boffing various women for favors. And for cash and for money. And for cash and jewelry, I was going to say. Cat and clothing and trips and cars.
Gigolo.
So he's clearly doing this. That's what he's off doing elsewhere. And that's just who Carmine is. And it's, I don't know if it's typical of a lower class gigolo type, which is what he is in the show, at least until we hit the California years. But,
right.
No, it gets better from here. It gets a lot better from here, the relationship. They're probably going to hate the episode that comes to the end of the season, but so.
I mean, I have to say, it took a long time to get Carmine back on my good side. Every piece of goodwill that got earned over season 3 is gone.
Yeah.
It's completely gone.
Yeah.
I mean, probably, when we watched this episode together, man, you saw me go off.
Yeah. So I was like, wow, yeah, he's gonna try to strangle a fictional character with his mind.
Yes. He made fun of a man who looks like Philip Seymour Hoffman. That's not okay. That's not okay.
In the end, of course, Carmine's that kind of shallow dude. And we get Carmine being a shallow dude in season 8. And that's kind of sadly just, a trait of his. And I don't want to directly call Carmine garbage. I don't want to completely blame this all on him being a product of the 60s. But, it's, I guess, his ultimate character trait is this is part of who he is.
Yeah.
But in Gary Marshall's attempt at launching any mecha star, we get more Carmine and more attempts to make him more sympathetic. So we'll see how that settles in as time goes on.
Yeah, I'm going to be I expect to be very stubborn about it, but admittedly, I also was stubbornly disliking Carmine from go. I just toned it down for the show, for us recording this, but I was out the gate, I was not super fond of the guy.
Well, I think
him dating slump pissed me off quite a bit out the gate.
I was going to say, I thought you started disliking him from dating slump on, because before that he's pretty innocuous. He doesn't do anything ultra ridiculous.
Yeah, now this is all ridiculous. And again, it reveals the interesting bias that shows like this have. As you're saying, this is very typical sitcom. And this is why, I mean, truth be told, this is going to sound kind of weird, but on the whole, with the exceptions of the ones that I have watched, which is strangely quite a few, I hate sitcoms. I absolutely don't like the genre. I mean, to be honest, if it wasn't for you asking me to do this, I never would have watched this show.
Yeah.
It's something that, I look at the standards and the tropes of it, and it clearly is always about do the joke and do the joke at the expense of somebody else. And that's not what I like in my art, my media, my comedy, and so forth.
Yeah.
And as well as we also have mentioned, part of the issue with Carmine, I think we've kind of come around to this off and on. Carmine never really gets comeuppances very often when he does something like this. And I feel like this needed to be to even just have the moment. And I understand why it's not there because it's building the suspense about the reveal of them getting back together.
Yeah.
But just to even have the slight moment where he's with his ex and, he's on this supposed date and he's at this party. And maybe even like Frank kind of calls him out on it. It's like, this is supposed to be this nice, fun, private party for the people I want to be here. And you're making Shirley miserable.
Yeah.
Or for him to realize how bored he is. Like there's all the toys and stuff that he wins for Shirley because they are still like kids, and have him offer to do that for his date, and she like laughs in his face about it. Like, what kind of child do you think I am?
Yeah. Or she makes fun of his singing voice, or
something.
Or he sucks at bowling, and she makes fun of him. They could do a lot of more interesting things that could have added a couple of layers to Warren at very least. But it's just I feel like that part of the act is almost rushed anyway.
Mm-hmm.
And like something could have been trimmed at either the fore or the aft to make it smoother. But
yeah.
So let's talk about some positive things.
Yeah. All the Laverne and Lenny stuff is perfect in this.
I was gonna say Penny and Cindy look very hot in this episode.
Dear God. I will not say all of the things that I have in my notes, but I'm very into Cindy's outfit in the first scene.
Yes, she looks so good. Cindy looks really nice in the first scene. She looks really nice in the whole episode. So does Penny. They both look marvelous. I was gonna say they're both smoke shows in this. In this and in the festival, they both look fabulous, and they both look fabulous in playing the Roxy. By the time we get to season 6, everyone looks marvelous. When it comes to costume and hair, everything works perfectly together. But in this episode particularly, you're like, wow, it looks great. But I adore Laverne hearing this, and her first instincts are to do the following. Smack the girl who is talking shit about her best friend. Run all the way to the apartment, confront Carmine, pour an entire bottle of juice down his pants, then drag Shirley up so she can hold Carmine still and Shirley can punch him. And that is sisterhood. That is Laverne being awesome. I love that. I love every bit of that.
Yep. Yeah, I think, to be honest, that's the only that and the Laverne and Lenny, and then the there's another thing I liked in this episode, one minor thing. Oh, right. Shirley with all the stuff from the stuff from the carnivals on her.
Always remember you like this, Cheryl. It's a good line in spite of it coming from Carmine.
Yeah. But it's it's like all those were the ones I liked. Those are all things that were good.
Yeah.
They're varying ranges of fist pumping, badass Laverne to, heartfelt, sweet little moments of, Shirley being like, oh, she's, all that stuff.
Yeah.
And then just, Laverne and Lenny, shippy goodness.
Their scene's really cute. I will get to that in a bit. I was going to say I love Shirley's strength in this, and I love the way she dumps Carmine, the way she just yells, Shirley and Carmine ain't going together anymore. That's why. That's why she handles it. The way she just dagger stabs him with her words is fabulous to me. I love that bit. I really like the notion that Laverne accidentally ate Shirley's facial mask, because of course she did.
Yeah, if it was just oatmeal and honey, I mean, that's delicious.
Honey. Yeah, exactly. exactly. You ate my facial master breakfast. It's just like, of course. In the end, that's the kind of thing that happens in this sitcom. People are eating weird things nonstop. And yet Laverne makes fun of the boys for what they eat. I mean, she eats some weird stuff throughout the show. I was going to say, yeah, now that brings us to Lenny's quest to be a millionaire with muscles. I love that in his mind, Squiggy is this really, really talented, strong stud who can draw the ladies in, and he wants to be more like him.
Mm-hmm.
When he really doesn't need to be like Squiggy to draw the girls on. I love that he didn't learn how to ride a bicycle until he was 19. And,
yeah.
And then
I mean, hey, I'm
yeah.
in my 30s and I still don't know how. So I'm hoping to learn eventually.
Yay! All things come with time. All things come with time. My first solo, hey Squig! Just think
what was it? He was.
Yeah, go ahead.
There's that line that yeah, there's God, what is that line that she says that Laverne says? Let's see. He made it.
Yeah, he made it.
Yeah.
He was doing fine till he reached the stairs.
That's it. That's the line. That's the line. Yep.
Because Squiggy's outraged. Because the years of training have gone down the drain because of this.
Yep. Oh yeah. Because I wrote down this line. Doop, 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 doop. Angry Squig. Yeah. Hello. What is the big idea of sending my Lenny off on a bike by himself? He wasn't ready, Laverne.
My Lenny. Come on, that's adorable.
That's adorable.
Oh,
yep.
There's a lot of good dialogue in this episode. Like Shirley requesting Rock Hudson only taller from Laverne.
Yeah. Oh, we'll start with taller.
Yeah, we'll start with taller. Yep. Yeah. The Squiggy and Shirley scene is really great.
Mm-hmm.
The audience is really there for Squiggy getting something off of Shirley. They're kind of really there for that notion for some reason. He calls Carmine the Big Raccoon for the first time in this episode.
Oh, good. That comes back. I'm glad to hear that.
He describes himself as irresistible. And of course, there's that classic Squiggy and Shirley chemistry. In that he absolutely thinks she wants to tie him down, and he wants to be a swinging bachelor, and does not want to settle down with her yet. And yet, he wants to keep the passion in his head that he thinks exists hot. And so, he comes in, and he smacks him with a kiss, and says that...
I can't stand to leave you brokenhearted, and then smooch.
Yeah,
make it last.
Make it last. I was trying to get to make it last. All right, woman. I don't know why I find it hilarious whenever he addresses her as woman.
Yeah, it's interesting that you find that so amusing because I know that's one of those it's always surprised me a little bit.
Yeah, because it's such a Squiggy thing where he thinks he's being cool and macho. Well, where meanwhile Shirley can outfox him any day of the week, most of the time. And when he actually is in a lover relationship, the woman in question walks all over him. He literally says the line, "Thank you for taming me," in an episode later.
Oh my god.
Yes.
Oh god. Yeah, but Squig is interesting, and seeing this little glimpse into him, I did find fascinating.
Yeah. You'll teach your heart to sing without Andrew Squigmon.
Squigmon.
I love the way he says his own last name, and whenever he says his own last name, he smacks himself in the chest with his fist. That is a continued thing with him. Watch several episodes of season 4 that happens. That becomes a thing that he does. And then get out. Yep. No, I'm leaving.
No, I'm leaving. Laverne, don't ever leave me alone with that man.
Yeah. But it worked out fine when she was almost dying of appendicitis. She was fine to be alone with him then. Hey, you safe then.
Yep. Well, this is the problem. See, she's gotten all riled up with him now, and don't ever leave me alone is because she's scared of the great hate sex they're gonna have.
Oh God! You can picture it after that kiss and her scream, can't you?
Yeah.
That is the fabulous scream from Cindy. She just
and it's and they freeze frame on it too, which is even better.
They freeze frame on it, yeah. God looked down on me one day and smiled all over me. No, I don't
No,
think
I
God
don't think
knows about
God
you.
knows about you. He knows about everything, Cheryl.
Yes, 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 yes.
God, I'm trying to imagine what lewd thing was going through his mind at that moment.
Yeah. Just imagine, it was Squiggy. All you have to do is just apply your imagination a little. Just think about it. I love that little me scene where Laverne's making lunch for them. And she's peeling that cucumber.
Yeah, it's Laverne. That's not how you aim your cucumber.
I know, she's having fun with it at least.
Yeah.
Is it my fault? It's my fault. I'll kill myself. It's not your fault. Oh, good. You want a cucumber?
I like this. Like, do you want what is it? You want the leftover chicken or a big chunk of spam? Spam it is.
Yep. Easy answer there. Very easy answer. And that's a great hello line for Squiggy. I want a man that takes my breath away.
Hello.
Yeah.
No, actually, no. Sorry, it's hello.
Yeah, he's mad at Laverne.
Yeah.
All that stuff is great.
Yeah. Man, and God, Shirley continues to be like her mom with all that manipulative bullshit with get Ernie on the phone to get a date, and it's just
She could get her own date. Like, she can't get her own date. She's got guys fighting over her with forklifts. She can get her own dates. I know it's an emergency, but still,
Certainly, yeah. I mean, that's actually in all caps. My note is, oh, fuck off, Shirley, with your manipulating shit. Stop being your mom. Both of you are being immature, ignorant babies. All caps. Wow, I was mad.
I can always tell when you're mad when you watch an episode you don't like. And I'm like, oh yeah, he's going to give this one a low grade, and I'm going to be way higher.
Oh, man.
Yeah. So now we go to the Laverne and Lenny stuff, which is really incredibly adorable in this episode, because he just compliments her dress out of the blue.
Mm-hmm.
And then they have a little conversation about how he is basically third wheeling on Squiggy's dates. Again, possible weird threesome stuff. And then when she goes and sits down after the conversation, he walks by with a beer and then presses it to the back of her neck, which is it's charming little kid stuff. That's charming little kid stuff, not like Carmine and Shirley. Yeah.
Yeah. My note for you is just is saying to Lenny, just kiss her and tell her she's gorgeous and bow before her and clean up your act. That's all you got to do. So if you want her so bad, just go for it.
Yeah. Wash your hair once, and she'll probably be all over it.
Yeah. It's good hair. It just needs to be washed.
Okay. Speaking of Lenny's hair, this is the first time in this episode we pretty much see it without any grease in it. It's not greased back when they go and deliver this girl who is basically the same character in Lenny's Crush, and she appears again in season 6. Her name is Francine. And she's got the same beehive and the same gum chewing. But this is the first time we see her without any grease in his hair. That's pretty much what Michael's hair looked like at that time, which is a little fascinating tidbit. Yeah, you can see it in publicity pictures. I posted some before. That's the way he used to wear it without when he was not on the show.
Speaking of the bit players, I was just looking up IMDb. I actually had forgotten I was going to do some research on the actress for this, but I was so mad at this episode I kind of didn't want to. So Denise, in the opening scene, and one of the two girls that's talking about going on a date with Carmine. Do you realize who that is?
She looked incredibly familiar to me. She almost looked like Tracy Nelson, but it's not. I know that for a fact.
It's Linda Gillen. That's Amy Babish.
No way. I knew she appeared again in this show, but I did not know that was her. God, that's good acting. That's good acting. That's fabulous acting. You could not tell it's the same person at all. Wow.
I keep forgetting she has a bit part in, she has a kind of probably like a walk-on practically in Ridley Scott's Black Rain. You have to watch the movie again. But yeah, no, she is a good actor. I was trying to look up some of the stuff she had done in the 60s. I think it was, there was a film she was in with, The Magic Garden of Stanley Sweetheart. And she was the clips I was able to find, she was very good in that. But yeah, it's, That's just thought to make sure I mentioned that because I just discovered that. I was like, "Whoa!" You were mentioning, the Francine character who isn't credited for this episode, but we will see her again.
Yeah.
Somewhere,
I am
someday.
not sure if she got credited in Lenny's Crush or in Sing Sing Sing. She's clearly the same actress. We'll see. We will see. We will see. There's some really, really fun stuff that happens in the Pizza World scene before the whole Warren thing happens and occurs and drags down a little. My friend, by the way, owns the dress that Laverne wears in this episode, which I think is really cool.
Oh wow!
Super
Yeah, that's
awesome.
a really gorgeous. That's a gorgeous dress.
Gorgeous dress, yeah. She has worn it before, I think, at one point in her life. So, hey,
Nice.
it's real cool. Super cool. I loved Laverne's line when Bubble Schneck walks into the room. Bubble Schneck is a great comedy name, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
I do like the name, if nothing else. I will say, Shirley tells her to stop looking so intently. And Laverne goes, I will as soon as I can stop looking at her. Now I know who God gave the rest of my body to, which is a great line. Now I know who God gave the rest of my body to.
It's a great line. It's one of my it's one of my favorites. Yeah, and you notice the women of the audience go crazy for that line
they've
too.
all experienced that emotion.
Mm-hmm.
I love that Squiggy is basically dressed up like his version of a sleazy Hollywood agent. In a way. With the sunglasses, he looks very, very much like somebody from a Paul Schrader movie.
Yeah, he does, doesn't he? Like either one of two things, either Paul Schrader or fittingly David Lynch, because I just found out that Lander was in Twin Peaks.
Yes, he was. Yes, he was. Yes, he was. I was waiting for a way to shoehorn that in, and I'm glad you did it. I'm really glad you did it.
And what I mean like the Mulholland Drive Lost Highway years too, in particular.
Yeah.
One of those.
Yeah.
Maybe Straight Story, just if like it had taken a weird turn, but I don't know. I like that movie, but anyway, yeah. Now there is a lot of. I mean, that's the thing I find so sad and frustrating to me is that there are a lot of things I really want to love about this episode. That like if it wasn't for the Carmine stuff, it wasn't for the way they treated Warren, I would have really ranked this actually quite high. There's a lot of cute. Judy is a fantastic writer.
Oh, as always.
You know, and I mean, this is she did as we mentioned, she did Debutante Ball. And, this has that similar. It's just not, and the thing I have a theory about this because I know this is sometimes the case with these writer's room situations, and I'm kind of curious as to your thought. I know that sometimes in the writer's room, a writer will come with an idea and be told, great, go write that. We'll workshop it with you, but you're going to be the one who's going to do the majority of the work. The other thing my understanding is that in some cases, you have a bunch of different ideas on the table and you as a writer in the room get an assignment. And I'm wondering if this is a case of that the premise wasn't necessarily hers to begin with. And it was something that one of the other writers, one of the lesser writers came up with. And then, because it just, like I said, it just surprised me that this particular writer wrote this particular episode.
Well, there are several episodes coming up where there are story credits and then actual writing credits given to an episode. There'll be some with scenarist credits. And it's possible that's how the writers' room worked, but it was such a chaotic scene. And the actors and the writers were at loggerheads so often. I'm not sure how they managed to pitch stories, who pitched stories, how it worked. I really don't. I would love to know how. Because I've heard, chaos, as we are familiar with when it comes to the show. I have no idea how it worked and whether or not she came to the plate with this idea and then pitched it. Or maybe it's possible that they had a general idea of how they wanted Carmine and Shirley's relationship to evolve throughout the season and into the next. But this I don't know. This I really don't know because it's so inconsistent and I can't tell you what's up when it comes to that. But I'm curious. Personally curious about it.
Mm-hmm.
I love that in the end, it's like 3 a.m. and Shirley's trying to prove she's having a good time.
That was cute.
Yeah, with the maracas.
With the lampshade and
they're having a party.
And the fellas just left, didn't they?
Yeah.
And okay, it was a nice touch. I hate to say it. Goodnight, Carmine is what Laverne says, and then he responds, "Goodnight, Shirley," completely ignoring Laverne, which is a nice touch. That's again what I mean about Judy being a really good writer when it comes to some of these moments.
Yeah. Yeah.
And God, why did he have to jump scare her like that? You are not Freddy Fazbear, Carmine. Stop that.
You mean I can't scare him away with loud noises? That's not fun. Or music boxes? It's like, who wants to Who wants to deal with that if I can't do that to Carmine? He has to deal with his presence. Anyway.
Yeah. Ugh.
I love...
the easy way to deal with that is you just don't go work at Freddy Fazbear's.
There you go. Yeah. They don't pay well either. It's like, who wants to work there?
Well, I mean, I would be surprised if, somehow if we ever had to interact with Carmine in any way in a professional setting back at the time when the show was taking place, we probably wouldn't get paid well either.
There you go. But we know Frank doesn't pay squat. According to Carmine.
I now don't feel so bad about that anymore.
Yeah. I liked Laverne working as a matchmaker here in spite of everything surrounding the film situation. The way she's trying to get them to make up. I gotta do everything around here.
Yeah. Close the door so the neighbors don't get a free show, which, I mean, I really want to see Squiggy and Lenny charging admission to that.
Yeah. Pay $5. Maybe you'll see some leg. They themselves literally told Shirley's mother that they never see the girls naked, so I don't know what they do.
Yeah.
Do that.
Yeah. I did think that was okay. Another line that I did like begrudgingly was, Cheryl, I said I was sorry. Please don't move out when she's got all the boxes across the living room.
Yeah, that was sweet. I will say that Cindy's acting is really lovely and subtle.
Mm-hmm.
As Eddie does a good job too.
Yeah.
Yeah, that last scene is really sweet and what makes the whole Carmine and Shirley thing, in a way, work. He needs to do more grovel. Really, most of the time in most of these episodes involving the relationship, he's the one who should be doing more grovel. He never seems to grovel enough for my taste.
Nope.
That kind of changes in time, but good Lord. When they're given material, like Judy can write this material even if they aren't her forte, when they're allowed to really knock something out of the park this way, when they're given lines that make you look at this couple and think, wow, they've been through a lot, maybe they deserve this, that's when everything fires on all cylinders and you believe that they're meant for one another. But, the trouble is, not more than 5 episodes before this, Carmine was acting like a possessive jerk.
Mm-hmm.
And not even a dozen episodes before that, he was dating other women.
Mm-hmm. And then dumped her, even though they weren't really necessarily going steady, but essentially dumped her for some other woman that he met and he only knew for what? A weekend? He was there for a weekend for a boxing match in New York.
Yeah.
Comes back and I'm in love with this woman. And is almost kind of implying that he's going to get engaged soon. Go fuck yourself, Carmine.
They could have done so many interesting things with that. They could have played out that relationship and maybe they get closer to getting married and then Carmine has a light bulb moment and I object moments where he has that friends moment where he accidentally calls the girl Shirley. They could have done all kinds of interesting... Yeah.
I forgot about that. I've heard about that moment.
I have many problems with Friends, but they did do some things right. But they could have done so many interesting things with that, and instead, I think a lot of it had to do with the fact that around Season 1 and Season 2, Eddie Mecca was also on Blansky's Beauties full-time. And he was playing Carmine's cousin Joey on the show. And so he was being Carmine at the same time, so they had to use him sparingly, so they had to kind of get him out of Shirley's life so they could free her up, so she could date in case Blansky's Beauties took off. And he wouldn't be able to pull double duty. Then, lo and behold, by the time Season 2 rolled around, and Blansky's Beauties was pretty much immediately canceled, they had to figure out a way to work Carmine back into the narrative. And the answer to that was, well, they've broken up, but now he has a new beau, and here's Lucille, and there could have been tension there, but they never consistently built the tension. And then Lucille disappears out of nowhere.
Yep.
And then season 3, they start getting back together. So.
Right. And it's a bummer that Lucille got kind of, I mean, I wasn't a big fan of the character, necessarily, but I also found it was a fascination.
Yeah.
I often say, there's these moments where they do these kind of stereotype, from those periods, from the period, and it's like I want to see that character like in a John Waters film, and I want to see them be able to use that in a very similar, fun, over the zany sort of fashion.
Yeah,
it's God. Yeah. That's I think what frustrates me about a lot of the Carmine stuff and a lot of sort of elements. This is the problem I have with sitcoms in general and traditional sitcoms, and why a certain showrunner who decided to flash his ass in public on Twitter at the time of around the time of this recording, that'll be old news by the time this comes out. So I don't know. You can ask me later. Ask me personally. We won't probably talk about it on the pod Twitter, but that just reminds about how like this stereotypical sitcom. There are these traits of. It doesn't matter, just focus on the joke and focus on that. And I'm not saying that, comedy should be funny or that you should, make sure that those jokes land. But if you see the opportunity for character and drama, there is no shame in taking it. Yeah. And maybe not necessarily even shame, but there's a sense of like, don't hide from it because you may actually be missing out on something. I feel like that's kind of what happens. And even here, this whole episode, this could have been an interesting episode that really, discussed the have it understandings, the people. Yeah. It could have been a misunderstanding, it even could have been a misunderstanding that Shirley didn't realize what it was going to be and what that was going to mean. And that's why she put up with this crap and she brings it up. But that's the catch is, when it's in syndication, it's week to week, no one you couldn't stay consistent. And so that by creating those tropes or those patterns, it strangles the work. Yeah.
The problem with it is the show did not have a consistent book. And it's probably due to the insane amount of conflict that was happening backstage. It's my only guess. Because, geesh.
Yep.
My actual note on that reconciliation scene is, this would be cute if Carmine wasn't a dick.
Yeah.
This was my note. And that's how I really feel about it. Like, sometimes when their relationship gets on an even keel, it's really sweet, and it's really sweet for a string of episodes. And then an episode like The Festival will happen, or Playing the Roxy, or this one, or Shirley and the Older Man at the end of the season. And you will look at Carmine and go, why you? Be quiet.
Why you? As always you.
Always you. Why you always the one getting naked? So I was gonna say the interesting thing about this episode is that we end with that tag scene with the boys foisting Squiggy's dates off on the girls for an overnight visit, and Squiggy tells them to be neighborly and that they do the same thing for them, let them sleep overnight, and then Lenny slowly starts to close the door, and he looks right at Laverne, and he goes, and that's a promise, babe. It's just like the most random exit line I can think of. Mm-hmm. And the way he delivers it, and the way he looks, he's looking right at her. Like poor Cindy / Shirley does not exist. And he's and I'm like, what the hell happened up there? I want to know what happened with the boys. It sounds like a more interesting night. But
I don't know. You never know. Frenzy maybe is another moth enthusiast, and they had a very heated discussion.
As Squiggy says in the later episode, I have some laws that will look great in your beehive.
That's great.
I think that's actually Lenny's crush. That's coming. That's coming soon. We're going to have fun with that one, and the feelings and emotions.
That's good. I mean, I God, as we're wrapping up towards the end of this episode, I mean, I hate to say it, this was the kind of episode that, like, if I was watching the show, like, if I was watching the show week to week, on my own say, I would stop watching for a month. Yeah. Because I've had those cases, where it's like the episode, the show does something to piss you off. My old friend Eleanor, she got so mad at Battlestar Galactica season finale, or a certain episode towards the end of season 3, and was so mad. because there have been episodes that I felt were weaker, but this one just absolutely just flabbergasted me with how much it pissed me off. I actually have some comments from my mom that she didn't like the writing of the episode, and I took down her notes. Showcasing that between Shirley and Carmine, nothing was resolved. It showed they both have commitment fears, but the conversation, how they resolved at the end, could have been better. The dialogue and etc. could have been better. And they had to have them compete with an "I'll show you." They were looking for something that was funny or that they thought was funny. And this time period, she says, I've seen this kind of script, this kind of plot, where they're trying to find someone to go out with, make the other one jealous. To which I commented, yeah, it's cliche bullshit. And she goes, yeah, it is.
Yeah.
And it was a letdown. So this season's going to have to work hard for me to keep even enjoying doing this.
One of the best episodes of the series is coming up after the next episode. Fortunately, the next episode is one of my least favorite episodes. So
I'll be the one going pat there.
Yeah. There are some fabulous episodes coming up though. Dinner for Four is amazing. Squiggy in Love is amazing. The Third Annual Shots Talent Show is amazing. Lenny's Crush is amazing. You know how many feelings I have about that one. There's a fun spy episode coming up. There's a lot of really, really great ones. After we get past the bully show, we got a long string of gems coming our way. So
fingers crossed. Yeah, because that's it's like we were before we started recording. I was mentioning we were likening it to when Mystery Science Theater 3000 moved to Sci-Fi. There was a dip in quality. They were finding themselves at the new network. The writing was a little, again, not bad, just a little dull, a little slower for the first 4 or 5 episodes, and then it hits a certain point. The tides turn, and it's pretty much perfect, for the rest of the year. So I'm hoping the zeitgeist of the consternation I feel towards this peaks next week, and then it's stuff. Just God.
Yeah.
It gets better. My brain's starting to melt.
It gets a lot better. Season 5 is a lot better. Season 6 is a lot better. Season 7 is okay. Season 8 happens. That's all I can say. But there are a lot more highlights coming our way. A lot more good things. Yes, we're about to. I think that's it. I think it is time to give out our ratings.
Okay, so I want you to go first.
You're gonna be surprised that I'm gonna give this around a 7 or so. 7.5.
Hold that thought. Wait a second. Wait. Run the number by me again.
No, I'm gonna go a little bit lower than that. I'm going to probably go with a 6.8. It's not. Yeah. As I said, we're totally divided rating wise on this one. I hate the shit that happens with Warren. I don't like it at all. I like most of the stuff surrounding it. I love Shirley's feisty independence. I love Laverne being the most awesome best friend ever. I love Lenny striving so hard and almost making it, and then having to share that date. And the Shirley and Squiggy scene is adorable. And the writing for the Carmine and the Shirley stuff would be good if we could just transplant it to a different season, or get rid of how you did in the festival or something. If he hadn't done some of these things, I would like it more. But, it's not into a must-see territory for me because of, the unmet. Warren almost doesn't even need to exist to be an stereotypical dud nerd character. I'm using 70s terminology here. That's not how I feel about the character. Yes.
He seems like a decent enough guy.
Yeah. Honestly, it would have been even funnier if either Shirley had ended up scoring this perfect guy, and then Bubbles and the perfect guy fell in love.
Yeah.
And Carmine and Shirley are sitting there resentful and mad at each other, but also mad at these people. And then they get dumped, and then they're stuck, having to have a conversation at the pizza bowl. And that would have worked better, I think, for me.
Yep.
So, Sorry, go ahead.
I had this one question and just thought about this. Why is Frank tolerating this goddamn drama in his place?
He always
This is quite a
tolerates-
scene to be made at a private party, not the public over, regularly eating. This is a private party. If you're not invited, don't come. So, what's the problem with this?
Let's think about all the dramatic things that have happened at private parties at the Pizza Bowl so far. Let's let's think about this so far. The girls not showing up to their own celebration party and coming in late, and him popping balloons.
And then I just okay, good point. I also just remembered they didn't blow up the bathroom.
They blew up the bathroom, yes. Everything that happened in Dog Day Blind Dates. Everything that happened when they tried to get the freaking party at the New Year's Eve party. New Year's Eve party. That's public drama and embarrassment of his daughter on the highest scale. So if he can tolerate that, he'll tolerate Shirley and Carmine being idiots. He's known them since they were like literally 6 years old. So of course, he's gonna go, oh, then.
Yeah. Or thereabouts anyway. Yeah.
Yeah.
We're still a little fuzzy on that particular part of the timeline when Carmine got hit the scene.
Yeah.
It's rough. We figure it's probably before high school because they started dating in high school.
Yeah.
So you figure they probably knew each other a bit earlier than that.
We have some, and this is some kind of canon establishment that says Laverne and Shirley met somewhere around kindergarten because they got kicked out of the Brownies together. They went through school together. They went through school with the boys, which means they met them in kindergarten. And the boys have known each other at least since around that time. At one point, Lenny tries to jog Squiggy's father's memory of him by getting down on his knees and affecting a child's voice and saying, "Hello, Mrs. Squiggan. Can Squiggy come out to play?" So he's known them since they were tiny. They know each other since they were tiny. Carmine could have entered the picture anywhere from junior high to high school. We know they dated throughout high school. So, at the very least, he's known everyone since high school. Yeah. Yes.
The world will have questions, but may never know truly the answers. Only inferments, conjecture, and hopeful possibilities given from the table scraps of the writing table.
You did not give your rating this time. You give your rating. Right?
3.
Yeah, 3. That's higher than I thought you were going to go.
Yeah. Okay, so reasons.
Yes.
The Laverne and Lenny stuff is adorable.
Yes.
The acting is good. And Cindy's facial expressions through the entire episode are kind of perfect.
Yes.
Even when, it's like, you ate my facial mask? Fantastic. The boys, just in general, are hilarious. And as you pointed out, Shirley does get to, tells off Carmine, and she's the one to break it off.
Yeah.
And she's, so that is a good point. So I was going to, wonder, there was a half point I was wondering for wiggle room, but yeah, I planned on the 3 since this morning. So
yeah, I was expecting a 1 or less. I really was. I was just waiting for that.
It has to be really bad. It has to be really, really bad. Because I've said this before, I'm not someone who really ranks things very low. I have hated media.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong. I this is probably a controversial statement even now in the future when this is put up. But I hated The Rise of Skywalker. It is the first piece of Star Wars media, and this includes even some of the crappier video games that I hated with a passion. But that's the point though. Is every single one of the prequels, I don't hate a single one of them. I hate parts of them, but I don't hate them. This is an episode where I hated a lot about it, and it brought, and like I said, as I mentioned to you after we watched the episode, this brought up some personal stuff for me. So I mean, it's kind of late news to get into it, and probably discredit my opinion as it happens on the internet. But there is definitely a personal bias about this because this relates in some ways to some Carmine's behavior with Shirley, that is, and about the fact that he essentially takes advantage of this understanding to go, fuck anything that moves that he wants and take what he wants because he's an entitled little jackass. Set off for me some of my own, stuff related to personal aspects in my life and personal relationships that I've had that have been kind of complicated, kind of / it's an understanding kind of situation.
Yeah.
And they weren't necessarily fair, necessarily what have you, but it also is about, what it comes down to is Carmine is only using this understanding for sex.
Yeah.
He's not using this for intimacy. He's not using this for real human connection.
Yeah.
He's using this to get his dick wet.
Yeah.
And that is to me is wrong. It is taking advantage of, to be honest, I find that's taking advantage of Shirley's trust.
Yeah.
And okay, is Shirley okay with it? To be honest, I think with how much it blows up in her face, how fast it does, it kind of shows that no, she never really was that okay with it.
Yeah.
And the thing is, Carmine's known her long enough to know that that was going to be the case. Yeah. So that's the final thought, regarding that, is that that's why it painted so much as a horrible portrayal of that. Otherwise, if that had been a standard jealousy arc, I would have given this a 6 easily. The Warren stuff then takes it down even as well, which is just, again, absolutely infuriating. Sorry, go ahead. I was just going to quickly say, this is my last point before, to finish off with is, as you kind of can tell, I literally disliked this episode so much, I actually didn't bother doing notes on the actors for once. Yeah. I didn't do this necessarily intentionally. It was simply that I didn't want to have to think about this.
I was going to mention one thing, and that is that it's not even that he's just using the relationship out to fuck around. He's also pressuring Shirley for sex. On top of it. Which is weird. Their relationship makes very little sense. To me, in a lot of ways. Sometimes it does make a lot of sense. Sometimes it's like an alien being sucking face with another alien.
Of a different species.
Yeah, of a different species. Before we wrap this up, guess who plays Muriel in the opening scene? Go look it up on IMDb.
That name is familiar. I'm gonna look this up.
I know it is. Jay.
Oh.
Yes, it is.
Yeah. Okay. No. Yeah. Hang on. I'm scrolling. It's scrolling down. Just double check something. Yeah. She's from a whole bunch of other stuff. Other things. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Right.
Yes.
Barbara. Barbara. It's like Barbara. Yeah.
Barbara.
And also was uncredited as the wrestling coach.
Yes. Lemery Stewart. I wanted to point that I had her in my notes, and I was waiting for you to bring her up. And just you mentioned you to look up notes. I thought I'd mention her.
Nope.
Okay.
Nope. Yeah. You go. Yeah. Thank you. Yeah. I wasn't gonna. No.
Well, I'll be making that noise next week. And until then, I guess that's it for this episode.
Awesome.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thanks everybody again so much for joining us for Night After Night and putting that, and especially if you're at this point, thank you for putting up with my bullshit. I usually, as you notice, I try to keep my swearing down a bit. I don't always curse this much normally, but it's a little. It's just when I'm particularly salty. This is me, all me in a bag of chips, extra salt, or I don't know, like a really strong salsa or something. Anyway, so. Thank you again, everyone, for putting up with it. We will see what goes on next episode. But in the meantime, if you would like to know more about the show or know more about the podcast, you can find us at Night After Night Pod on Facebook, Tumblr, Patreon, and WordPress, as well as on the YouTubes, or Night After Night PC. Good Lord, my brain is dying. On Twitter. And you can chat with us on Twitter, Night After Night Podcast or Night After Night PC. Thank you so much. And I'm going to go stew for a moment. Lisa, tell the good people at home, please, what's going on. Otherwise, I think I'm going to start screaming again.
Next week is my least favorite episode, or one of them. At least until we get to season 8. The boys fix Laverne up with their foreman under threat of violence. And it's the first part of the show's attempted date rape troika, as I have unfortunately termed it. This is the bully show.
Wow, that sounds like all that in a bag of fuck off. God damn it. This fucking season, man.
We're gonna get to the good stuff. I promise.